In a previous video I was talking about Loki and Odin, and I was comparing them from different aspects, and I thought it would make sense to make another video to actually highlight to people that Odin and Loki are blood brothers. And the reason for that is they actually share a very important characteristic, that being that they are tricksters. Now, for beginner practitioners, they often appear as, one of them being this wise, very helpful, soft daddy figure, while the other often looks like a destructive, almost satanic figure, which are both very strong exaggerations. We have to understand that Odin actually shares many characteristics of Loki, and they are much more closer to each other than we would think at the first glance. Because when we look at the mythology of Odin, we can clearly see that he often behaves in a mischievous way. He practices cider, which, for example, is often seen as a traditionally female spiritual practice. He also appears in disguise very often. A very good example of that is the Völuspa, where he awakens the Völva in disguise, or the Grimnismal, where he pretends to be someone else to test the king. And we can also mention the Harbardsjod, which is basically an Odinic version of the Lokasenna, an Odinic version of Loki's slagging of other gods. So what does it mean exactly in a theological sense? Well, we can the best understand Odin's trickster characteristic if we read the myth of the Mead of poetry, which is described both in the Havama and both in the Prose Edda. And what we can see here is that Odin appears in disguise, commits all kind of trickery on other people. He manipulates other people in order to get hold of the mead of poetry and to deliver it to the gods. So what we see here is he doesn't just do trickery for the sake of it, which Loki does most of the time, but he actually does it for two reasons. One, to achieve wisdom and to acquire knowledge, and two, to strengthen the community of the gods and mankind. Now, in contrast, Loki, who most of the time appears as a trickster, does it for its own sake, or does it to survive, to defend himself. Just like we can see in the story of Sif's hair, where he just cuts off Sif's hair for no reason at all, and then later he also tricks the Dverga to save himself. Or we can remind us to the story of the Golden Apples, where he gets abducted and captured by the giants, and in order to save himself, he promises to steal the golden apples of the gods. So Loki really appears to us as the archetypical, homeless, restless trickster god who doesn't belong to anywhere, to anybody. He doesn't have a group. He's neither an Aesir or a Vanir or even a Jotun. So what is the conclusion of this comparison, and what we can learn from the fact that Odin and Loki share a very important characteristics, but they are still essentially different? Well, what it teaches to us, and this is repeated in the Havamar again and again, is that knowledge is dangerous. Acquiring wisdom is a risky business, and you can get seriously destroyed by it. But if you still try it and you go on this road of self-development and finding knowledge, then you can also become a better self. You can enrich the community and you can develop your own existence, just like how Odin did himself.